Most veterans think the C&P exam is over the moment they walk out of that room. They showed up, they answered the questions, they did their part. Now they wait. But that silence after the exam is where a lot of veterans lose ground. Because after you leave, the examiner writes a report. That report is called a DBQ, a Disability Benefits Questionnaire. And before the VA uses that report to make a decision, you may be able to read it. That matters. Because if something was missed, minimized, or documented wrong, you may still have time to respond before the decision is made, not after, before. That is what this video is about. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what a DBQ is, why it matters, how you may be able to get a copy, and what sections to review first. I will show you the red flags to look for, the things that can quietly hurt a claim before the veteran even knows there is a problem. And I will tell you what to do if you find one, calmly, clearly, and without panic. If you have been following this series, we have already covered how to walk into the exam room prepared, how to communicate your condition honestly, and how range of motion and functional loss actually get documented. This video is the next step. The exam is done. Now we conduct Recon. If you are new here, welcome. You do not need to have seen the earlier videos to follow this one. Everything you need is right here. Let's get into it. What is a DBQ? Let's start with the basics. A DBQ, Disability Benefits Questionnaire, is the form the C&P examiner fills out after your exam. Think of it as the examiner's battlefield report. It is the official document that captures what the examiner observed, what your record showed, what your symptoms are, how your condition affects your daily life, and in many cases, whether your condition is connected to your military service. The VA rater who decides your claim rating does not sit in that exam room with you. They read the DBQ. That report is often the primary evidence the rater uses to make a decision. That is why it matters. That is why you need to know what is in it. Now, here is the first question most veterans ask: how do I get a copy? The answer depends on how your exam was conducted. If your exam was done through the VA directly, meaning at a VA medical center or VA clinic, the DBQ should become part of your VA medical records. You may be able to access it through the VA's online health portal, My Health Vet, or by requesting your records directly. If your exam was contracted out through a company like QTC, LHI, VES, OptumServe, or another VA contractor, the process can be different. In many cases, the contractor may not give the report directly to you, but the DBQ still becomes part of your VA claim file. You can request it through the VA, through your accredited representative if you have one, or through the proper records request process. Do not assume it is not available. It may take some follow through to get eyes on it, but it is worth the effort. You have the right to review your records. You do not have to wait for the decision letter to find out what the examiner said about you. Start that process. Get eyes on it. That is the first mission. What sections to review first? Once you have the DBQ in your hands, do not just skim it. I do not want you reading this like a stack of paperwork. I want you reading it like a mission report. You are not looking for perfection. You are looking for accuracy. Here are the sections that matter most. Diagnosis. This is the foundation. If the examiner did not clearly document a diagnosis or documented a different condition than what you were examined for, that is a problem worth noting. The VA can only rate what is clearly diagnosed. Medical history. Did the examiner document your service history and your medical history accurately? If you discussed a specific incident, injury, or period of service, is it reflected in the report? Symptoms. This section is critical. Go through it carefully. If the DBQ lists specific symptoms and checks yes or no, make sure the yes and no answers match reality. If you told the examiner about a symptom and it was marked as not present, that is a red flag. Functional loss. This is one of the most important sections and one of the most commonly incomplete. Functional loss means how your condition actually limits what you can do at work, at home, in daily life. If the DBQ only captures what happened in the exam room and does not reflect what your life actually looks like, that is a gap. Flare-ups. If your condition gets worse during flare-ups, if bad days look very different from the day of your exam, the DBQ should reflect that. If flare-ups were discussed during the exam but are not documented in the report, that is important. Range of motion, if applicable. If your claim involves a joint, your back, your neck, or any musculoskeletal condition, review the range of motion measurements carefully. Check whether pain on motion was documented. Check whether the examiner noted where pain begins, not just where motion ends. Check whether repeated use was tested or noted. We covered this in detail in an earlier video in this series. If you have not watched that one, it is worth going back to. Occupational and social impairment, if mental health. If this is a mental health claim, this section carries significant weight. It describes how your condition affects your ability to work and your relationships. Review it carefully. Make sure it reflects the actual impact of your condition, not just what a good day looks like. Nexus and opinion sections. If the examiner was asked to provide a medical opinion, meaning whether your condition is connected to your service, that opinion will appear here. Read it carefully. Look at the language. Is it a strong opinion or a weak one? Does it say the condition is at least as likely as not related to service, or does it say it is less likely? That language matters more than most veterans realize. Remarks section. Some DBQs have a remarks or comments section where the examiner can add additional context. Read every word of it. Sometimes the most important details and the most problematic ones are buried in the remarks. Red flags to look for. Now let's talk about what can quietly hurt a claim. These are the red flags, symptoms marked as not present when they were discussed. If you told the examiner about a symptom, you brought it up clearly, and the DBQ marks that symptom as absent, that is a discrepancy. Write it down. Flare-ups not documented. If your condition fluctuates, if you have bad days that are significantly worse than your average day, and the DBQ does not mention flare-ups at all, the record is incomplete, functional loss minimized or missing. If the DBQ only captures what you could do in the exam room and does not reflect how your condition limits your daily life, your ability to work, to move, to sleep, to function, that is a significant gap. Range of motion that does not reflect pain on motion. If you experienced pain during the range of motion testing and the DBQ only records the measurement, not where the pain began, not whether motion was painful, the record is not telling the full story. Key records appear to have been missed. If the examiner states that all relevant records were reviewed, but your most important service treatment records or private medical records are not reflected anywhere in the DBQ, that is worth noting. Inconsistencies between the DBQ and your actual records. If the DBQ describes your history or your symptoms in a way that contradicts what your records clearly show, that is a problem. That is the battlefield. Those are the things to look for. What not to do. Now here is something just as important. When veterans find a problem in the DBQ, and some of you will, the instinct is to panic or to get angry or to fire off a statement that is more emotion than evidence. Do not do that. And here is something else I want you to hold on to. Do not confuse the DBQ with the final decision. The DBQ is evidence, it is important evidence. But the decision letter is where the VA explains what they accepted, what they denied, and why. One incomplete section in the DBQ does not automatically mean denial. Here is what losing ground looks like in practice. Do not submit an angry letter calling the examiner dishonest. Do not write a vague statement that says the exam was unfair without explaining specifically what was missing. Do not assume that one incomplete sentence means automatic denial. Do not make assumptions about the rater's intentions before you have read the decision letter. The VA rater will also review your other evidence, your service records, your medical records, your buddy statements, your lay statements. The DBQ matters. It matters a lot, but it is not always the only piece of evidence the rater sees. Stay calm, stay organized, stay mission focused. What to do instead, here is what calm, organized action looks like. First, compare the DBQ to your records. Sit down with both. Go section by section. Write down specific discrepancies, not feelings, specifics. The DBQ states this symptom was not present. My medical records from this date document this symptom clearly. That is a specific evidence-based observation. Second, if something important was left out, consider whether a personal statement or buddy statement can help clarify the record, not an angry statement. A clear, factual statement that explains the gap between what was documented and what your records in your daily life actually show. Third, if you have supporting evidence that was not part of the exam, consider whether uploading it makes sense before the decision is made. Private medical records, specialist opinions, buddy statements, or a personal statement describing functional loss can all be submitted as additional evidence. Fourth, in most situations, the most practical move is to wait for the decision letter before choosing your next lane. The decision letter will show you exactly how the VA reasoned through your claim, what they accepted, what they denied, and what evidence they said was missing. That information helps you respond intelligently, not reactively. If the issue in the DBQ is serious enough that you believe it needs to be addressed before the decision, and that does happen, you may want to speak with an accredited Veteran Service Organization representative. They can help you understand your options. I want to be clear about something. This video is educational information only. It is not legal advice, medical advice, accredited representation, or a guarantee of any VA benefit or outcome. What I'm giving you here is a framework for understanding your own records more clearly. My goal is never to mislead, only to empower you with accurate, honest, and actionable information. 48-hour challenge. Here is your mission for the next 48 hours. If you recently had a C&P exam, your mission is simple. Start the process of requesting your DBQ or claim file. Once you have it, sit down with it and your medical records side by side. Go through the sections I walked you through. Write down anything that appears to be missing, incomplete, or inconsistent with your actual records. Do not write an emotional reaction. Write a factual observation. That list, specific, calm, evidence-based, is your starting point if you need to respond. You do not have to solve everything today, but if you can get eyes on that report before the VA makes a decision, you are in a stronger position. That is the mission. Recap. Let's bring this home. The DBQ is the examiner's battlefield report. It is the document the VA rater will use to help decide your claim. You may be able to read it before that decision is made. When you do, review the diagnosis, the symptoms, the functional loss, the flare-up documentation, the range of motion, the opinion sections, and the remarks. Look for red flags, symptoms marked absent, flare-ups ignored, functional loss minimized, inconsistencies with your records. If you find a problem, do not confuse the DBQ with the final decision. Stay calm, get specific, respond with evidence, not emotion. And in most cases, wait for the decision letter before choosing your next move. That letter will tell you exactly where things stand. In the next video and the final video in this series, we are going to cover something that some veterans run into before the DBQ is ever written. What happens when the examiner in that room does not seem neutral? When the tone is dismissive? When the questions feel leading? When something about the exam feels wrong from the start? That is the final mission in this series, handling the hostile C&P examiner. What to do, what not to do, and how to protect your record when the room feels like it is working against you. If you have followed this series from the beginning, that is the last piece of the battlefield you need to understand before you are fully prepared. Do not miss that one. Before you file, appeal, or request an increase, get organized first. Grab the free VA Claim Readiness Checklist and other resources at veteranclaimsmadeeasy.com/resources. Use those resources to organize your evidence, understand what the VA is looking for, and move forward with more clarity. Start there. My goal is never to mislead, only to empower you with accurate, honest, and actionable information. Semper Fidelis, and God bless.